Good evening, everybody. I can report that as of a few minutes ago, we had, I think it was just over 540 people who'd registered for tonight. And the important discussion is how can trade union reps and activists campaign for a new party, work to make it the best possible version it can be, with trade unions and trade unionists at its heart. About that time when we last met, in fact, the 21st of July, in this national forum, and we had contributions from Jeremy, from Zara Sultana, from Ian Hodson, who's the president of the Bakers Union, and a range of NEC level speakers from, I think it was either 10 or 11 different unions. 3 days later, Jeremy and Zara launched Your Party, and within weeks, some 800,000 people had expressed an interest. And if they all sign up for membership, that would exceed the total membership of all other parties in the UK put together. We then organised a series of meetings for individual trade unions. I think we've had 10 so far. We've also had a conference just over a week ago of trade unionists in Scotland, looking at the 2026 Scottish Parliament elections. And this coming Saturday, there's a conference in Wales hosted by, I think it's at least 4 local TUCs, coming together to discuss the Senate election. But also the idea of tonight's meeting is to have some reports of some of those individual union meetings. The Socialist Party itself has held such meetings in, I think now, 60 towns and cities. We've had the election of Zach Polanski as the leader of the Green Party. Zach Polanski's election has led to a surge in membership numbers for the Green Party. In fact, I think it was announced this morning that membership of the Green Party has risen 50% since that leadership election and now has gone over 100,000. The TUC met at the beginning of September and agreed to organise a national demonstration against Labour's austerity programme, a welcome development, to tackle what the Independent has described as a 20 to 40 billion pound black hole in government finances. The only organisation with the membership, resources and reach into working class communities that could burst the bubble of Reform UK are the organised working class itself in the trade union movement. In effect, how do we take politics from the picket line to Parliament? And the first person I'd like to call in is Hugo Keir, who's a former member of the Unison National Executive, and has been there during the general strikes against the slaughter in Gaza.
Some really momentous events that have taken place in Italy. Obviously, the genocidal war that the Israeli state has been conducting has actually led to radicalization of working class communities right around the world. Here in Italy, in fact, the organized working class has become massively engaged, partly at the start because port workers were taking action to block Israeli goods, military equipment from being transported through Italian ports. And that was organized by Unione Sindacate de Base, USB, but also the global Samud flotilla docked in Genoa. And the working class of Genoa, in particular port workers, said that they wanted that mission to break the Israeli blockade of Gaza and to be successful. And they held a further demonstration of over 50,000 and a mass meeting to organize a general strike of the USB Union Federation itself on 22nd of September. But when the flotilla was actually attacked and the Israeli state seized the vessels of the flotilla, an emergency general strike was called for the 3rd of October. Now, immediately it was attacked. There were walkouts from universities and schools of young people, of students in those universities, and there were demonstrations through towns. But on the 3rd of October, when a general strike was called, effectively there was a mass shutdown in Italy. There was 1 in the morning of 50,000, another one of 50,000 in the afternoon. The ports were completely blocked. There were massive demonstrations there, 100,000 people in both cities. And in Rome, it was estimated that something like 300,000 marched through the streets of Rome. The reality was that then on the Saturday after the general strike, there was a march of about 1 million people. Now, these are political demonstrations which actually have also gone against the right wing's attempts to silence the voice of the working class. Blockading ports and preventing goods from going is punishable potentially by imprisonment for those that take part in it. And we've seen this political general strike actually shake Meloni's right-wing populist government, even though there are some in the coalition that are shouting for action to be taken by the trade unions. We've seen that Meloni's government has had to shift its position on Israel and actually is running a bit scared. And the Palestinian question, I think, has acted as a lightning rod to beat the Meloni government and the austerity measures that have taken place. And the trade unions have used this to argue for the Meloni government to do the right thing over Palestine. And if we think about it, that strike that took place, where possibly 2 million people actually took part in demonstrations, has the potential power to organise politically to win any general election and to force the Meloni government out of power and start to form its own party, start to get a workers' list together of people, trade unions who are willing to stand against the austerity. So we can see here, I can see here in Italy, that there's a lot that still needs to be done. But the working class at least has come out onto the streets fighting and is prepared to take on this right-wing government here.
Many of us have been arguing for the whole of the last 2 years that the best way the organised working class could stamp its authority on the horrendous events that were taking place with the far-right government of Israel and its genocidal war against the Palestinians in Gaza was through industrial action that broke the links of military equipment production and transportation to Israel. Sam could give us a report on the RMT Trade Unionists for a New Party meeting, which he hosted, but also, as I said earlier on, about the motion that I know has been debated and overwhelmingly passed by the London Transport Regional Council.
Thank you very much, Dave. As David said, our branch hosts a Zoom on the 23rd of September, and that Zoom was discussing the role of the RMT within the founding of this party. We had some attendees, including Jeremy Corbyn, Dave Nellist, and there was key reps and members from the region. Talking about some of the things that happened on the meeting, there was some very good contributions, and the contributions were encouraging trade union involvement, particularly with key individuals being allowed to attend the founding conference of your party, and how branches can nationally help to organise the foundation of this party, being as that they would be best situated within the country to be able to help out locally. There was other contributions that were in the meeting which were just really hinging on some key points within the region, and a big one that was brought up, and we had some members turn up. We're talking about the in-housing of the outsourced contracted work, particularly within the London transport area. There was also discussion on a motion, and this motion was passed through the London Transport Regional Council. This motion, it said that it supports the formation of the New Workers' Party, and it was calling on the NEC to engage with Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana, and essentially saying that this party should be anti-cuts, promote the nationalisation across the country, and involve trade unionists within this formation. I would encourage that all branches and all the relevant unions that would be in attendance of this meeting could think about passing such a motion, because it starts the conversation within the relevant trade unions, the relevant branches, and just even talking about it and bringing it into discussion means that we can be one step forward thinking in the organisation and the foundation of such a party.
Sam's branch, London, the engineering branch, of course, is Bob Crow's old branch, and a lot of what we're doing here today was pioneered by Bob when he was General Secretary of the RMT. For example, in 2009, Bob hosted two conferences in London in the February and the November for trade unionists and socialists inside and outside the Labour Party to come together and debate what was the way forward to get a political voice for the organised working class.
It's really a concern that if we centre trade union ways and if we centre the working class, I know this is going to sound antithetical to a lot of people in this new project. I'm really concerned that we're both potentially going to alienate a lot of people, and I also think that historically our ways of doing things have not necessarily been the best ways of doing things. And I heard a really interesting contribution from James Schneider, and he talked about looking to kind of Latin America and some traditions there where they go into communities where people are doing relevant activities. It might be cooking, it might be singing and dancing, it might be whatever, and join in and then rather listen to people about what their concerns are there in these community spaces. And mobilise in that way organically. So that's I'm kind of arguing an anti-trade union position, which is a bit odd for a trade unionist. I mean, I don't consider myself working class. You know, if we do focus on workers, we're in danger of excluding migrants, homeless, the homeless, carers who stay at home, the 7 million people who are on a sick waiting list for the NHS, and loads of other groups. We really need to stay open, inclusive, and so that's the plea I want to make. Thanks again.
Thanks very much, Richard. Well, there you go. There's some issues we can take up. There's about 600,000 people in Britain that are liquid millionaires. They've got enough money that they can liquidate from cash or other assets overnight £1 million. The rest of us have to work for a living. 8, 9, 10% are comfortable. The middle class. There's 90% of this population is working class. The only thing about homeless people is that they're people without a roof and without a job. People with disabilities are people who haven't got factories or offices that have been properly adapted to enable them to get a job. And all these things need to be taken up by the new party, not just the current organised working class in the trade unions. The route, the power to make that change is going to go through the organised working class.
I'm also in the LUL engineering branch of the RMT. I think the best way for trade unionists and activists is to engage in political discussions in order to put a program forward for the new party. It has to be noted that both your party and the trade unions still have a disconnect to the working class. Still only a minority of workers is organized in unions and sees them as their organization. As for your party, most workers have never heard of it, let alone look to its program. I think really about migrants, homeless, and other marginalized people. I see them as either sections of the working class or oppressed people that the working class should champion in any way. So we can put forward a program that also addresses their interests. I have emphasized that the new party should centrally aim to represent layers of the working class that feel betrayed and left behind by liberals like Starmer and Blair.
Suze, you're going to be next.
Thank you, Dave. I'm Suzanne Mooner. I am a member of the United Executive Council representing one of the delegates representing the Southwest region. We got the opportunity at the policy conference in July to really push forward with an emergency motion to say, well, firstly, to condemn what Birmingham Council was doing and the commissioners and Angela Rayner and her department. And it was overwhelmingly backed. There wasn't a single person who voted against that emergency motion out of 800 delegates. And obviously with as Dave was saying, you know, the critical thing about the trade unions is that it is collectivized and organized. But when we talk about working class, we mean everybody, you know, kind of at our level, as it were, including people who are homeless and really voiceless. But the organized working class obviously has the power, to kind of make those changes, and certainly Unite could, with its investment and with its backing. So we've been passing also from the lower in the branches and the committee levels, we've been passing motions up to kind of keep that issue alive. Our policy next rules conference is due in 2027, but there is the possibility of bringing it forward, and we just need to look at how we actually go about arranging that. So thank you very much for the opportunity just to update on that.
I mean, I personally know of, I think it's 20 Unite branches and committees that have passed that model motion.
Sergio Lancome, chair of a CWU branch, just speaking in a personal capacity though. With this new party, there's a huge opportunity to have a fighting campaigning party that can, reach and support communities that don't feel like they're being supported right now by the political establishment. But to do that, it has to have the right structures, and it has to orientate itself to the working class as a whole, and the various communities and sections of the working class that face sometimes double, triple oppressions as well. And I think it's already been quickly commented on, but yeah, the raffle system indicates it's just one sign of the risk that kind of your party is heading down the wrong direction with some of its processes and organizations where it has the appearance of a fairer and democratic system. Your party won't accept any corporate money, but it could still end up in a situation where it's people that are landlords or more middle class people can end up limiting the actions of the policies that members might want, because it's those people that tend to have the time and, more importantly, the money to get stuck into certain political campaigns and get into power. And really, to prevent that, I think it takes proper organising from trade unionists, socialists, and working class groups. But I don't think like it's been said, I don't think the structure in Labour should be returned to. I don't think we can have a block vote system or any system where it's unaccountable representatives of groups that get to override the votes of thousands, but rather it's accountability that's needed, and you need a federal system where for example, unions, democratic interventions can take place at all levels. Your local postal CWU branch could be affiliated and also be part of processes, mass meetings that hold elected representatives in the councils or MPs to account. Right now, the CWU is affiliated to the Labour Party, and I think it we won't really be able to intervene into your party as much as we would want to at this stage without a rules change conference. But that it's clear that rank and file members across the CWU want to disaffiliate from Labour and that they want better political representation. And I think if your party would facilitate that, then it could, help initiate a bottom-up wave of affiliations.
But it will be a process. The Labour Party, when it started in February 1900, as the Labour Representation Committee, did not have that many trade unions affiliated to it. In fact, the Miners Federation took 9 years before they affiliated to it, and events along the way convinced more and more workers that they needed not just an industrial organisation but a political arm as well.
Yeah, so this is April Ashley from Unison. I'm a Black members rep on the NEC, but like everybody else, I'm speaking in a personal capacity. So we had a meeting for Unison members in August, but I think the main thing we passed the motion, a model motion to be sent to branches, calling for a full review of the Unison Political Fund. We are currently linked to the Labour Party, give money to the Labour Party through the Labour Link, which is, quite wedded to the Labour Party, even though only 16% of members are affiliated to the Labour Link. But we already know that a few branches have passed the model motion, making sure that we only support candidates and parties that support unison policies. And that's what we're sending out to branches, and we're hoping more branches pass that motion, and so that we can have a real debate next year at the conference in unison. Thanks.
Chris Bowkett, and I'm the branch chair of USDOR in Bristol. USDOR, ironically, is also one of those trade unions affiliated to the Labour Party, with a particularly strong link between the bureaucracy of the union and the Labour Party in general. As we've seen, the proposed employment rights bill, which we're still waiting for, has been watered down, and the Labour Party has even been willing to remove the whip from MPs who voted for policies that we overwhelmingly backed at our annual delegate meeting. So to say we've got an uphill battle is really putting it quite mildly. This year we've got a new General Secretary and we've got a new Deputy General Secretary. But more importantly, 2026, next year, is actually a rule change year, giving us a real opportunity to vote with our feet. One of our model motions we've put to branches is that we want to give branches more autonomy in choosing who they give money to. So to make sure it's not only to the Labour Party. Another change that we've proposed would be to give branches more scrutiny over members' money going to MPs who vote against our interests. These may sound like quite small changes, kind of picking around the edges, but for a union like USDOR, which is so strongly associated with the Labour Party, this sort of change would be massive.
I'm Adam Harmsworth. I'm National Vice Chair of NAPO, the Probation and Family Court Trade Union, speaking here in a personal capacity. Following the previous meeting that we had back in July, my NAPO branch, the Family Court section, discussed and agreed to submit a motion to NAPO's AGM, actually similar to the resolution that was passed by UCU, which calls for discussion with sister unions on establishing a new voice for the working class, and makes clear, as quoting from it, NAPO and the broader trade union movement must look for an alternative political voice to Labour. Now, this is quite timely, this meeting, because NAPO's AGM begins this Thursday, so I hope by the end of it on Saturday that it will be voted as official NAPO policy. That's my hope.
National Education Union, the follow-up meeting that we had in August, had 70 people on the call. It's vital that trade unions nationally and locally, as well as individual trade unionists, play a central role in the establishment and building of a new party. It's actually become quite a bit of a point of discussion in the NEU, because the General Secretary, Daniel Kebede, like other union leaders of the non-affiliated unions, argues that it's better for our union to remain independent of any party. Now, if you haven't got a seat at the table, it's guaranteed you won't be able to influence the direction that the new party takes in terms of democratic structures and the issues on which it fights. And if trade unions locally and nationally, and trade unionists more widely, are playing a central role in the development of the new party, we'd have a chance to influence directly what they do. We'd have the chance to hold them to account. It's the weight of the membership, though, that's crucial. Acting collectively is what brings results in these in those negotiations. And there's over 6 million workers organised in trade unions is absolutely crucial. There's a very good chance that come the local elections next year, there will be a whole layer of members elected to prominent positions in councils, even potentially finding themselves in control of them. Now, in these initial stages of the development of a new party, we're going to make sure, as trade union bodies, that we involve ourselves in how it develops, so we can influence what democratic structures it adopts, so we can ensure our voice can be heard going forward.
So I was really pleased that Richard came in and spoke about our Trades Council debate, because as president of Waltham Forest Trades Council, we initiated a discussion between the Green Party, Task, and your party to talk about the role of trade unions in the construction of any new mass workers' party. And I think it is true that many within this new movement are trumpeting a red-green coalition as a way forward. They're looking to France and across to Europe as a kind of model, a blueprint of how we build. We should welcome that the Greens are embracing nationalisation. I've debated with the Greens over decades, and this is the first time, that they're trumpeting the whole, welcoming nationalisation. We should welcome the fact that Zach Polanski's talked about accepting affiliation money from the trade unions. Really, what I'd like to report from that meeting, because we did discuss, you know, Dave used the phrase from the picket line to Parliament, and I think we have to keep that in mind. I do disagree with Richard. Every day in this city, there are numerous picket lines taking place. It's not like 2022 with big national strikes taking place, but there are strikes every single day. There are picket lines all over this city in London and probably all over the country where people are fighting back on a daily basis through their trade unions, if you like, expressing the will to fight back, which this new party has to tap into. Now, we want in this new party the will of the 6 million trade unionists, of the various picket lines that are taking place around this country to be expressed in this new party. Zach Polanski spoke at the weekend at the World Transformed in Manchester, and he was asked a question about, you know, the 800 Green councillors who are implementing cuts, the free councils that they control, where they're, you know, implementing cuts. And he said something along the lines of, well, you know, councils have limited powers, they have to implement the cuts, otherwise the government step in. That is exactly the same mantra that is being parroted by the Labour councils around the country. This whole question of how our trade unionists can hold leaders accountable to policies is not a luxury. In my opinion, it's an essential.
So the conference takes place this Saturday. It's called the Wales Trade Union Conference on the Crisis of Political Representation. It's hosted by Cardiff Trades Council. Now, the conference is supported by 5 trades councils in Wales, also supported by the National Executive Committee of the Bakers, Food and Allied Workers Union, supported by the PCS Wales Executive Committee, as an event being called to endorse your party. It was actually conceived before the announcement from Zara Sultana took place. What it's intended to be is a genuine, open, free and democratic discussion of rank and file trade unionists on the crisis of political representation, on how best trade unionists can be represented politically. And we've been pushing out an open door, you know, that we faced no opposition wherever we've been able to speak and explain what this conference is all about. We've written to Jeremy Corbyn, so it's going to be an excellent event. I think for us, it's been excellent because it's given us the chance to go out and talk to local branch secretaries. It's also been a good opportunity for trades councils to come together. You know, for 5 trades councils, been a good experience, a good example of how trades councils in a geographical area can work together in order to take this kind of initiative forward. Thank you.
As Adam has said, the elections in May across 3,500 council seats in England and the whole of the Senate in Wales and of Scottish Parliament, the whole of the councils in London, the whole of the councillors in Birmingham could see 2,000 Reform UK councillors by the end of those elections in May. But it doesn't have to be that way. When Jeremy got elected to the leader of the Labour Party in September 2015, when the 2017 general election come 2 years later, Farage was down to 600,000 votes and 1 million UKIP voters had moved from UKIP over to the radical programme that Jeremy was putting forward as leader of the Labour Party. If that could be replicated on housing, on wages, on the health and investment in health and education, on scrapping tuition fees, on raising to a livable level the question of benefits and state pensions, then more people on those class issues could be won away from Farage. That bubble could be burst, but it would be burst quicker if the organised trade union movement is at the heart of the development of your party. So that's what we're going to try and do in the weeks ahead. And let's think of the possibility that when the constitution rules come out, when the regional assemblies take place, when that national assembly takes place at the end of November in Liverpool, that we will come back together as trade union reps and trade union activists campaigning to make a new party for working class people the best it possibly can be. It's been, for my mind, a successful and important meeting this evening. Please report it back to those organisations and union branches that you're a member of. Keep in touch, and as ever, the last thing to say on a Zoom meeting, safe journey home.